I rented a husband online, but the agency sent me my childhood bully. He'll be dead in 60 seconds if we wait, I said, voice steady despite the chaos. Give me the blade. I made the cut. Within seconds, the monitor's frantic beeping steadied, and oxygen levels climbed. Good call, Dr. Zhao, the nurse said. He'd been watching the whole time. That's why you're the best we've got. I nodded, already documenting the procedure. The first rule of emergency medicine is simple: stay calm. The second, never make life-altering decisions after a 36-hour shift. I'd mastered the first rule. The second? Well, after 4 more hours of fatigue in the hospital, I was finally changing out of my blood-spattered scrubs when my phone pinged. The group chat I'd been ignoring all day had exploded with notifications. Save the date. Jordan and Miguel's destination wedding. I opened the digital invitation, scanning its contents with sleep-deprived eyes. Tropical resort, 5 days, wedding party activities, my name alone on the invitation. No +1. Again, my phone lit up with an incoming video call from the group. I should have ignored it. I should have remembered the second emergency rule, but... Evan, you got the invite? Jordan's face filled my screen, followed by the others joining the call. I did, I said, forcing a smile. Congratulations. We figured you'd be flying solo again, Miguel chimed in. So we put you at the singles table with Jordan's hot cousins. Though they're straight, Pryor added, but maybe you can network. Network? I repeated flatly. Or you could finally use one of those dating apps, Jordan suggested. The wedding's still 4 months away. Plenty of time to find someone. I don't know if it was the sleep deprivation or 6 years of these same comments, but something inside me snapped. Actually, I heard myself say, I won't be needing a date because my husband would already be included in the invitation if you'd bothered to check my relationship status. Silence. 5 shocked faces stared back at me. You're... what? Pryor finally shrieked. My husband, I repeated, the lie taking on a life of its own. We've been married for 6 months. But you never said anything. Jordan looked hurt. The lie expanded like a tumor. Because he's private, and I don't want to make a spectacle of the whole thing. That's bullshit, Damon countered. You've been single since med school. When was the last time any of you asked about my life? I challenged. Their guilty expressions told me I'd hit a nerve. Well, he's definitely coming to the wedding, Jordan declared. I need to meet the man who finally snagged Boston's most eligible doctor. Can't wait for you to meet him, I said, my heart pounding. I ended the call and immediately slumped against my locker. What had I done? After 3 months... 3 months and 17 ignored wedding planning texts later, I was pacing my apartment in panic. The wedding was a week away, and my fictional husband remained decidedly fictional. After exhausting all options, including briefly considering asking my 68-year-old neighbor to pose as my spouse, I found myself on a website I'd initially thought was a joke. Spouse Temporary. Luxury companion services for social events, the site promised. Completely professional, utterly convincing, absolutely confidential. The price made me wince, but less than the cancellation fee or the humiliation of admitting my lie. I filled out their detailed questionnaire, emphasizing my requirements. The confirmation email promised my spouse would arrive at 8 a.m. on departure day. No photos, no preview. Their algorithm would match me with my perfect temporary partner. Next day. When my doorbell rang at precisely 8 a.m., I was already on my 3rd cup of coffee, suitcase packed, anxiety peaking. I opened the door to find a tall figure silhouetted against the morning sun. Dr. Evan Zhao? The deep voice set an unexpected shiver down my spine. That's me, I confirmed, squinting against the light. The man stepped forward, and his features came into focus. The coffee mug slipped from my hand. I'm Chase Donovan, your husband for the weekend, he said with a professional smile that quickly faltered as recognition dawned in his eyes. The mug wasn't the only thing that shattered. So did my composure as I stared at the 6'2" frame of the man who had made my high school years a living hell. Chase's suitcase hit the floor with a thud. "Little Evan Zhao?" he whispered, color draining from his face. Memories flashed through my mind. Locker shoves, whispered slurs, all orchestrated by the golden boy standing before me. "No," I said flatly. "Absolutely not." "Evan, This has to be a mistake," I interrupted, already pulling out my phone to call the agency. 20 minutes and one heated conversation later, I had my answer. No refunds, no replacements on such short notice, and a cancellation fee that would wipe out my savings. "It's just 5 days," Chase said quietly. "I'll be professional." "Like you were professional when you locked me in the equipment shed overnight?" I snapped. He flinched. "I deserve that." "You deserve a lot worse," I muttered, grabbing my suitcase. "Let's just go. We're going to miss our flight." A few hours later. The universe has a sick sense of humor. Not only was I stuck with my high school tormentor as my fake husband, but our flight was delayed, leaving us stranded together at the gate. "I have a different name now," Chase finally said, breaking the icy silence. "Professionally, I mean. That's why you didn't see it coming." "Fascinating," I replied, not looking up from my medical journal. "I'm sorry," he said suddenly. "For everything. High school, the things I did. I'm not doing this." I cut him off. "This isn't some heartwarming redemption story. You're here to do a job. I'm paying you to pretend to love me, not to ease your conscience." He nodded, shoulders slumping slightly. "Fair enough." After another painful silence, he spoke again. "So, how should we play this?" Despite my anger, I recognized the practical need to align our stories. We've been married 6 months. The rest, make something up. "That's not how this works. We need consistency," Chase said, his professional demeanor returning. I sighed. "Fine. We met at a hospital fundraiser. You were... What do you actually do?" "I'm between things right now," he said vaguely. "This job is temporary. My father cut me off when I refused to join the family business." "Of course," I muttered. "Poor little rich boy." Chase's jaw tightened. "Think whatever you want about me, but I'm good at what I do, and I'll make sure your friends believe we're in love." Our flight finally called, and we boarded in silence. After a few minutes, Chase tried again. "Your friends. What should I know?" I considered ignoring him, but reluctantly provided basic information. Jordan and Miguel are getting married, together since college. Prior, corporate lawyer, married to Damon, finance guy. Leah is a travel blogger, perpetually single by choice. "And, how did you all meet?" "College, freshman year." Chase nodded, making mental notes. "And they don't know about, our history?" "No, I never mentioned you by name, just some jock assholes." He winced, but didn't argue. Suddenly, the plane dropped, hit by unexpected turbulence. My hand instinctively shot out, grabbing the closest thing, Chase's hand. His fingers immediately interlaced with mine, warm and steadying. "It's okay," he said softly. The turbulence subsided, but for a moment, neither of us moved. His thumb brushed lightly over my knuckles in a soothing gesture. When I finally pulled away, I could still feel the imprint of his touch. "Sorry," I mumbled. "Don't be," he replied, voice lower than before. "That's what husbands are for." After a few hours. The tropical resort was breathtaking. Beaches and luxury villas. Our room, however, presented a new problem. 1 bed, I stated flatly, staring at the king-sized mattress. "I can take the couch," Chase offered, setting down our bags. "What couch?" I gestured around the open concept suite, a sitting area with only 2 armchairs. "Floor, then." I was about to agree when I noticed something even more concerning. The bathroom, specifically the shower, enclosed entirely in clear glass and visible from nearly every angle of the bedroom. "Is that a see-through shower?" "Yes," Chase confirmed, amusement flicking across his face. "Very, honeymoon suite." This is ridiculous, I muttered. We'll work it out, Chase said pragmatically. Right now, we should get ready. Welcome dinner starts in an hour. Half an hour later, I emerged from the bathroom, having changed with gymnastic-level contortions to avoid the glass shower area, to find Chase in slim-fit chinos and a light blue button-down that complemented his tanned skin and made his eyes look impossibly blue. You look nice, he offered, glancing at my similar but more conservative outfit. Thanks, I replied stiffly. Remember, we've been married 6 months, deeply in love, but not overly demonstrative. Got it. Subtle but convincing. He reached out, adjusting my collar slightly. Ready? No, I wasn't ready. Not for his touch, not for the charade, not for the way my body responded to his proximity. But I nodded anyway. Half an hour later. Evan! Jordan's squeal carried across the beachfront restaurant as we approached the welcome dinner. And this must be the secret husband! 5 pairs of eyes turned to assess Chase, who slipped his hand into mine with practiced ease. Everyone, this is Chase, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Chase, this is everyone. What followed was a whirlwind of introductions, hugs, and thinly veiled interrogation. Chase handled it with surprising grace. So, how did you two actually meet? Pryor asked over appetizers, eyes narrowed suspiciously. Before I could answer, Chase jumped in. Hospital fundraiser, like Evan said. But what he probably didn't tell you is that I spilled red wine all over his white shirt within the first 5 minutes. You did not, I said automatically. Chase's eyes twinkled. I absolutely did. I was so nervous. He was clearly the most attractive man in the room. I tried to play it cool, failed spectacularly, and ended up offering him my own shirt off my back. Which I declined, I added, finding myself pulled into the fiction. Rightfully so. It was a terrible shirt. Chase laughed. But he took pity on me and let me buy him coffee the next day to make up for it. And the rest is history? Jordan prompted. Chase's expression softened as he looked at me. Not quite. Evan was hard to win over. Took me 3 months of coffee dates before he'd even call it a real date. Worth every minute of waiting, though. There was something in his voice, a vulnerability that seemed too authentic for performance. His hand found mine under the table, a gentle squeeze that felt like a private communication. What about you, Evan? Miguel asked. When did you know Chase was the one? All eyes turned to me, including Chase's. I hadn't prepared for this question. I faltered, then found myself saying, It was when he brought me soup. Chase looked genuinely surprised. I had the flu, I continued. Terrible timing. Had to present a research at a conference the next day. Chase came over with homemade soup and stayed up all night helping me between fever spikes. It was a complete fabrication, but as I spoke, I could almost see it happening. The kind of partnership I'd always wanted, but never found. That's our Evan, Damon commented. Always putting work first. Evan's commitment to his patients is one of the things I admire most about him, Chase responded. Damon raised an eyebrow. I'm just saying, it can't be easy being married to someone who's never home. Some of us value more than just physical presence, Chase replied smoothly. Quality over quantity, right, babe? The endearment caught me off guard, as did his defense. For a moment, I could almost believe he meant it. The conversation shifted, but throughout dinner, Chase continued his performance flawlessly, remembering details about my life I'd never told him, likely gleaned from social media. Laughing at inside jokes he somehow knew, and occasionally touching me with casual intimacy that seemed both practiced and genuine. At one point, he leaned close and whispered, "You have an eyelash." Before I could react, his thumb gently brushed my cheek, the contact sending an unexpected jolt through me. Our eyes locked, and for a split second, the performance fell away, leaving something raw and unscripted between us. I pulled back first, unnerved by my reaction. Later that night, as we awkwardly navigated the one-bed situation, Chase insisted on building a pillow wall down the middle, I finally asked the question that had been bothering me. How did you know all those things about me? Chase, shirtless but in sleep pants, a sight I was trying desperately to ignore, paused his pillow arrangement. I did my homework. Your Instagram is public. Made guesses based on knowing you. You don't know me, I said sharply. He sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly serious. You're right. I knew a version of you from high school. And I've learned about adult you through research. But I'd like to know the real you. Why? The question came out harsher than intended. Because I owe you more than just an apology, he said quietly. I owe you the truth. Which is? Chase took a deep breath. I'm sober. 3 years now. Part of my recovery was making amends to people I hurt. And you were at the top of that list. I stared at him, processing this information. So this is, what? Step 9 of your program? It wasn't supposed to be like this, he admitted. When I saw your name come through the system, I requested this assignment. I thought... I don't know what I thought. That I could apologize properly, maybe. Congratulations on your sobriety, I said, unsure how to feel. But one weekend of playing nice doesn't erase what you did. I know, he said simply. Nothing does, but I'm trying to do better than I was. The sincerity in his voice was disarming. I climbed into bed, staying firmly on my side of the pillow barrier. Good night, Chase. Next day. The next day brought couples activities and endless opportunities for my friends to observe my marriage. Chase continued his impeccable husband performance, but something had shifted. There were moments when the line between performance and reality blurred, when his laughter seemed genuine, or his concerns like actual care. That evening, a beach bonfire was planned. As everyone gathered around the flames, sharing stories and drinking cocktails, Chase leaned over. Walk with me, he whispered. I hesitated, then nodded. We excused ourselves, and Chase led me down the beach, away from the group. I need to tell you something, he said once we were out of earshot, about high school. Chase, we don't have to. Please, he interrupted. I need to say this. The moonlight cast shadows across his face. He looked different than the teenager who had tormented me. Not just physically, but something had changed in his eyes. I was terrible to you because I was terrified of myself, he began. I had a crush on you. A massive, overwhelming crush that scared the hell out of me. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. What? I came from a household where being gay was worse than being dead, he continued. My father made that explicitly clear. And then, there you were, smart, unashamed, and so damn brave. Everything I wasn't. He pulled up the edge of his shirt, revealing a jagged scar along his ribs. When I was 16, my father found gay porn on my phone. This was his response. He let the shirt fall back. After that, I buried that part of myself so deep, I almost believed it didn't exist, and I took out my self-hatred on you. I stood frozen, processing his words. This same high school jock had been fighting his own battle with sexuality. I'm not telling you this for forgiveness, Chase added quickly. There's no excuse for how I treated you. I just wanted you to know it was never about you. It was my weakness, my fear. I don't know what to say, I admitted. You don't have to say anything, he assured me. I just needed you to know. We stood in silence, waves lapping at the shore. Finally, I asked, when did you come to terms with it? College, mostly. Got away from my father, started therapy. Came out officially at 22, got disowned, spiraled into addiction, hit rock bottom, got sober. He summarized years of struggle in a single breath. Now, I'm rebuilding. And working as a renter-spouse? He laughed softly. Temporary gig. My trust fund was cut off, but I'm starting my own business soon. My father's final screw you was that I can't access my inheritance until I'm 35, or married for at least a year. Hence the irony of your current job. Hence the irony, he agreed. We stood facing each other, the confession hanging between us. We should head back, I said eventually. unsure how to process everything he'd shared. He nodded, and as we walked, his hand brushed mine, not taking it, just a whisper of contact that left me wondering if it was intentional. Next day. The next day brought the rehearsal dinner and a couples activity that would prove to be my undoing. "For our next game," Jordan announced to the gathered couples, "you'll recreate your first kiss. Most authentic reenactment wins a spa package." My stomach dropped. Chase and I had managed to avoid any real physical intimacy beyond hand-holding and the occasional arm around shoulders. This would be different. When our turn came, Chase turned to me, eyes asking permission. I gave a slight nod, preparing for a quick peck. Instead, Chase cupped my face with gentle hands, his touch hesitant, as if approaching something precious. He leaned in slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away. When his lips finally met mine, it was soft, questioning, almost reverent. I meant to keep it brief, professional, but something happened when our lips touched, a spark of connection that made me forget we were performing. My hands found their way to his waist, and I kissed him back with unexpected intensity. When we finally separated, the cheers and whistles from our audience barely registered. All I could see was Chase's expression, stunned, hopeful, and something else I couldn't name. "Well," Jordan declared, "I think we have our winners." Later that night, slightly drunk on victory champagne and confusion, we stumbled back to our room. The pillow barrier had been abandoned the previous night after Chase unconsciously rolled over it in his sleep. "That was some kiss," Chase said, closing the door behind us. "You're a good actor." "So are you," I replied, though I wasn't sure either of us had been acting. He moved closer, emboldened by champagne and the charged energy between us. "What if I told you I wasn't acting?" My heart raced. "I'd say you're very dedicated to your job." "Evan," he said softly, reaching for my hand. "This stopped being just a job somewhere between the airport and now." I wanted to believe him. The way he looked at me, touched me, it felt real, but doubt nagged at me. "How do I know?" I whispered. "How do I know what's real and what's performance?" Chase's face fell. "You're right. I'm sorry." He stepped back, creating distance between us. I watched him retreat, feeling a confusing mix of relief and disappointment. I just can't distinguish between what's real and what's part of this fantasy we're creating. "I understand," he said quietly. "For what it's worth, everything I've told you about myself is true. The apology, my feelings in high school, all of it." "I believe that part," I admitted. "But this, us, it's built on a lie. We're pretending to be something we're not." What I didn't say was how much I wished it wasn't pretend, how the lines had blurred for me too. Next day. The next morning, I woke to find Priya at our door, asking to speak with me privately. Over coffee, she dropped her bombshell. "I know you and Chase aren't really married," she said without preamble. My stomach lurched. "What makes you say that?" "I overheard you last night. The walls are thin." She gave me a sympathetic look. "Why did you lie to us, Evan?" I stared at my coffee, shame washing over me. I was tired of being the perpetual seventh wheel, of the comments, the setups, the pity. "So you hired someone?" It was a stupid impulse decision after a 36-hour shift, I admitted. I never expected it to be Chase, of all people. "What do you mean, of all people?" I hesitated, then told her about our high school history. Her eyes widened with each revelation. "That's a lot," she said when I finished. "But Evan, have you considered that maybe there's something real happening here? The way he looks at you." "It's his job to look at me that way," I countered. "No one's that good an actor," she insisted. "And last night, he wasn't performing for anyone. He thought you were both alone." I wanted to believe her, but fear held me back. "It doesn't matter. After this weekend, we go back to our real lives." "If that's what you want," she said, unconvinced. But don't let the past rob you of something that could be wonderful. After a few hours, when I returned to our room, Chase was on the phone, his back to the door. Yes, I'll complete the job as agreed, he was saying. You'll get the rest of your payment when it's done. My blood ran cold. I'd begun to believe in his transformation, in his apology, in the possibility of something real between us. But this sounded like confirmation of my worst fears. Was any of it real? I demanded when he ended the call. He spun around, startled. Evan, what? The call. I heard you. Complete the job, get the payment. What was this, Chase? Some elaborate scam? Or just the ultimate revenge on the gay kid you tormented? No! His face paled. That wasn't... Save it! I cut him off. I want you gone. I'll tell everyone we had a fight, that you left early. I'd rather face their pity than continue this... whatever this is. Evan, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain, I said coldly. You've done your job. Consider yourself fired. Hurt flashed across his face, followed by resignation. If that's what you want. It is. He nodded once, then began packing his things. I left the room, unable to watch, anger and disappointment burning in my chest. Next day, wedding day. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather and a hollow feeling in my stomach. I'd told everyone Chase had an emergency and had to return home, enduring their sympathetic looks and offers to keep me company. As I sat alone during the ceremony, watching Jordan and Miguel exchange vows, regret gnawed at me. Not just for the lie I'd told my friends, but for sending Chase away without letting him explain. Priya slid into the seat beside me. He's still here, she whispered. At the airport. His flight's delayed. How do you know that? He called me, took my number before going, said if you changed your mind. She handed me her phone with the text conversation open. I scrolled through messages from Chase, explaining the phone call I'd overheard. It wasn't about the spouse service. It was a conversation with his therapist about completing his amends. The payment referred to emotional debt. He specifically requested your booking when he saw it in the system, Priya added. He's been trying to find a way to apologize to you for years. My chest tightened. I didn't let him explain. The airport shuttle leaves in 10 minutes, she said, checking her watch. If someone wanted to catch it, hypothetically... I looked toward the altar. I can't just leave the wedding. Miguel and Jordan will understand, she assured me. I hesitated only a moment longer before standing. Tell them I'm sorry, and I'll explain everything later. She smiled. Go get your not fake husband. After a few hours. The airport was crowded, and for a moment I feared I'd missed him. Then I spotted him, sitting alone by the window, looking as miserable as I felt. Chase, I called, pushing through the crowd. He looked up, disbelief crossing his face as he stood. Evan, what are you doing here? I should have let you explain, I said, stopping in front of him. Priya showed me your texts. I would never scam you, he said earnestly. The call was with my therapist. You're the last person on my amends list, the most important one. I know. I'm sorry I didn't trust you. He took a tentative step closer. Why are you here, Evan? Because I'm falling for you, I admitted. Not the high school Chase, and not the fake husband Chase. The real you. The one who builds pillow barriers, and remembers how I take my coffee, and defends my work ethic to my friends. Hope bloomed in his eyes. Really? Really, I confirmed. And I'm terrified because this started with a lie. And you're leaving, and I don't know what happens next, but I couldn't let you go without... He cut me off with a kiss. Nothing like our performance at the rehearsal dinner. This was urgent, honest, unhurried all at once. His arms encircled me, pulling me close, as if afraid I might disappear. When we finally separated, breathless, he pressed his forehead to mine. I'm not going anywhere unless you want me to. What about your flight? I'll change it, he said simply. If you want me to stay. I want you to stay, I whispered. Not as my fake husband, but as yourself. His smile was radiant. I think I can manage that. A few hours later, we returned to the wedding reception, hand in hand, greeted by knowing smiles from Prior and confusion from everyone else. Over champagne and cake, we told them the truth, all of it. The lie, the service, our history, and the real feelings that had developed. To my surprise, after the initial shock, they were supportive. "Finally," Jordan said, "a love story more dramatic than ours." Later that night, in our room, Chase and I stopped pretending. Every touch, every whisper, every moment of vulnerability was real, healing the past and building something new with each truth we shared. 6 months later, another wedding invitation arrived in my mail. This time, it explicitly included a +1. "Look," I called to Chase, who was cooking dinner in my kitchen, our kitchen, increasingly, as he spent most nights there. "Looks like Leah finally got her Prince Charming, and this time with a +1. He grinned, stirring the pasta sauce. "Should we go? I promise not to charge you this time." "Very funny." I rolled my eyes, setting the invitation on the counter. "Actually, I already RSVP'd for one." "Oh." His smile faltered slightly. "Did you want to go solo?" "No," I said, heart racing. I was thinking of proposing before then. Seemed presumptuous to put fiancé on the RSVP without asking you first. The wooden spoon clattered against the pot as Chase turned to face me, eyes wide. "Evan, I know it's fast," I hurried to add. "And we don't have to get married right away. I just know that I love you." And Chase was suddenly rummaging through his jacket, hanging by the door, pulling out a small velvet box. "I've been carrying this around for 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment." Now it was my turn to be speechless as he opened the box to reveal a platinum band. "Great minds," he said softly. I laughed, tears pricking my eyes. "So, that's a yes?" "That's a yes," he confirmed, pulling me into his arms. "On one condition." "What's that?" His eyes sparkled with mischief and love. "Absolutely no rental wedding guests allowed." "Deal," I agreed, sealing the promise with a kiss. The first of many as husbands, for real this time. The end. What would you do if you were in a crazy situation like Evan's? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.